Hi everyone. We are on our next video lesson here, and your note should say line segments on top. It should look like this. This is what it should look like, so this is the page you want to be on. So let's just get started here, okay? So line segments. After today, you're going to be able to define the betweenness of points. Very simple, kind of common sense-ish. And then we will be able to write algebraic expressions to find the length of either the whole segment or parts of the segment. And then we're going to be able to tell the difference between congruence and equality. Very similar, just like minor things why they're different. Okay, very kind of nice new lesson for us to do today. Let's get started, okay? So what is a line segment? Well, a line segment, you guys can see this, it's good. A line segment is just part of a line. Can you even tell if I highlight that? That's what you want to write down. So remember from the other day, a line goes on for forever in both directions, right? And let's say this little line segment was on this line here. So it's part of this whole line. It can be measured because it has two endpoints, like it has a start and a stop. So I can actually find the measure of segment AB. We use those endpoints to name the segment. So for example, this segment here, we would call it segment AB. And then to know that it's a segment, you have to put the little segment bar on top. And then you can also flip the order of those letters. So BA, just like that. Either way is a great way to name this, but just know that it has to be the endpoints. Okay, so that's kind of a line segment in a nutshell. Just know it's part of a line and you use its endpoints to name it. This is kind of like a technicality, this bottom part here. It says the measure of segment AB is written as just AB. So when we talk about the actual segment itself, we use the segment bar on top. So like this, you would say this is segment AB. But if I told you to find the length of segment AB, I would write it like this, without the segment on top. It's kind of confusing. It's just like a notational thing. But let's just put a little star by that so you just kind of remember that, oh, if Miss Bundy asks me to find the length of segment AB, it's going to look like this. But if she's talking about the segment AB, there's a little segment bar on top. Kind of confusing. You'll see what I mean when we get to like homework problems because that's how the directions will be written. So these next two examples are pretty easy. I think you guys have been using a ruler for a very long time in your school career. But it says, find the length of the segment. So you guys take a hot second here and figure out how long AB is on that ruler given. Okay, so when I look here, right, I have 10 millimeters, 20, 30, 40, and then it kind of comes down, I don't know, like at like 42, 43, depending on how clear your copy is. So you could say like 42 millimeters. If we want to be fancy, we could go in centimeters. So just move our decimal point over. Those are good answers. Make sure you label if you're able to, because we do know the unit, it's millimeters. So it is right there. Okay, you guys go ahead. You guys find the next one. So rulers are kind of different, right? It kind of depends on what the markings are. So if I notice here, I have 4 markings between each inch, so then I would know that these represent 1/4 of an inch. So CD is a full inch plus one more little tick mark. So I would know that this would be 1 1/4 inches. Any questions there? Have you guys done that before? I'm assuming you have. If not, you let me know in class and we will touch base. All right, this next slide that I have here is not in your notes, but I just want to talk about it. So the question I'm asking you is, what point is in the diagram is clearly between the other two? So if I were just to give you this picture and you read this instructions, which point would you say is clearly between two other points and you would know for sure that it was? So take a second to kind of look at this picture and think which point is clearly between two other points. Okay, let's just talk about the different situations here. So like F. F looks like it's between D and E. That could be a fair answer. C looks like it could be between B and D. So that could be a fair answer. And then B looks like it's between A and E. So are there three potential answers here? We want to say yes, but actually, no. There's only one correct answer here. The only answer here is actually B. B is between A and E. Now, why can't I say that for the other two situations here? Well, for a point to be between two other points, they have to be collinear. Do you guys remember what collinear is? So remember, collinear means they're on the same line. So if I notice here, is F on the same line as ED? So that already takes that guy out. And now if I look at C, is C between or on the same line as BD? I mean, if I were to draw this in, it definitely might be, but who's to say that it's for sure on there? I mean, I'm a human. I definitely probably did not draw that straight. So really, we don't know for sure. But do you guys see how B is actually on this line of AE? So that's how I know B is between those 2 points. We're going to use this betweenness of points idea for the next few examples. It's very, very simple. But what you need to know is for a point to be between two other points, it needs to be collinear. So all those points need to be on the same line. That's the big idea here, okay? So again, for a point to be on the same or be between two other points, they have to be collinear. So let's look at this situation we have going on right here. It says PQ. So do you guys see PQ here? This big old, from point P to Q, is made up of what two parts? Like, I want to break this apart so I can figure out what they are. Well, look, we have PM that goes from P to M. So this chunk here is PM plus this part here. I'm going to write that in a different color though, folks, MQ. So I know that this whole thing is made up of this piece plus this piece. That's what this is saying. So PQ is made up of PM plus MQ. And we only know that because P, M, and Q are collinear. How do we feel? Awesome, I hope. Not really sure how you're feeling, but please let me know when I see you next. Okay, let's look here. So it says if Rn equals 12 and Rb equals 40, find Nb. So right now, all you have is words, right? Like, what am I asking you? Like, this makes no sense. Like, there's no directions here. But this is what I was talking about with like the segment bar on top. So they're telling me the segment measure of Rn is 12 units long. And the segment measure of Rb is 40 units long. And our job is to figure out what the length of Nb is. So in geometry, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So if you're not given a picture, I want you to draw one. So this is just a segment, right? So give yourself something to look at here. It doesn't matter how long you make it. Give yourself a segment, okay? Give yourself a segment. And it probably should have said, this is my bad. I think on the normal slide it would have said this, but N is between RB. That would have been on the normal notebook if we were doing this in class, so that's my bad. That's my apologies. So if we draw this, I know R's here, B's here, and N is somewhere between them. That's basically the picture we have. And now label what they give us. It says Rn equals 12. So I know from here to here is 12 units long. And then they tell us RB, the whole thing, this whole thing is 40 units long. Now our job is to figure out what the length of NB is. That's what we're looking for. That's the question. So what mathematical process do we have to do if I know the whole thing and I know this part's just 12? How do you find what's left over? Well, I hope you're thinking the whole thing minus the part we know will give us what's left over. So 40 minus 12 is 28. So NB equals 28. Okay, that's what we know so far. So are we okay? Okay, same situation again. N is between R and B. So draw your picture first, and then we'll label everything they give us. So again, we know that N is between R and B. So draw this picture here so you have something to look at, and then we can label. So they tell us if Rn equals 2x, so from here to here has a length of 2x, and NB is 19. Oh, and then we get one more piece of information, and the whole thing is 4x plus 1. Find x and RB. Holy cow, we have a lot to do here. So we got to break this down, right? So first we need to figure out what x is. What would be an easy way to find x? Well, let's write some things down. So I know that Rn, so this piece here, plus this piece here, NB, is equal to the whole thing, so RB. We know that. And what's nice about this is I know what these things equal, so let's just plug it in. So what did they tell me Rn equals? Well, Rn equals 2x, so I'm going to plug in 2x for this guy. And NB, they tell us NB equals 19. And they also told us what RB was, so this is pretty nice. RB equals 4x plus 1. And now we have a linear equation. We know how to solve this. We've done this before last year. So let's just try it. Remember, when you have variables on both sides, you get your variables to one side of the equation and everything else to the other side. So I'm first going to move my 2x. So subtract 2x from both sides. These guys cancel, so I'm left with 19 equals 4x minus 2x is just 2x. Drop down your plus 1. To get rid of that plus 1, we subtract over. 19 minus 1 is 18. 2x drops down, our 1's cancel. And then finally, our last step here is to divide by 2. So 9 equals x. Perfect. So we answered the first part of the question. It said find x. So we just found x to be 9. So x equals 9. But then it also told us to find RB. So now we're plugging in for RB. So remember, RB is the whole thing, so I'm going to plug in 9 for that x. So this is what RB equals. Now let's plug in 9. We know when there's a number with parentheses like this, it means to multiply. So 4 times 9 is 36, plus 1 more equals 37. So RB equals 37. Whew, that was a lot, right? Good work. One more for practice. Let's try another one just similar to that. So it says, if R is between S and T, RT equals 3x minus 7, ST equals 7x plus 5, and RS equals 30, find the value of x and the length of each segment. Okay, so step 1 is to draw a picture. So take a second and draw a picture. You're drawing R is between S and T. So you guys do that right now. Maybe pause the video, and then I'll do it. Did you pause? I hope you paused, because that's the only way you learn, is if you do things on your own sometimes. Okay, that was the choir lesson for today. Okay, here's my segment. I know 1 point's in between those two. Now we just label. It says R is between S and T, so I'm just going to put S here, T there. You could have those flip-flop, that's okay, just as long as those are your endpoints. And then R is somewhere between. So we just drew our situation. And now we can label. So it says RT equals 3x minus 7. So this guy right here, from R to T, is 3x minus 7. Now they tell us ST, so the whole thing is 7x plus 5. Amazing, good work. And then lastly, they tell us RS is 30. So now our job is to find the value of x and then the length of each segment that's happening. We can do this. We just did this. So again, let's just start off with what we know. So I know that SR, this chunk right here, plus RT, this chunk right here, is equal to the whole thing, ST. We know that. That is true. So now let's plug in what we know for those things. So we said that RS is 30. We were told that RT is 3x minus 7. And ST is 7x plus 5. And now we have a pretty simple linear equation to solve. So I'm going to simplify this left-hand side over here. So 30 minus 7 is 23. Now I'm going to get my variables to one side and my numbers to the other. So I'm first going to move my 3x. So then I'm left with 23 equals 4x plus 5. I'm running out of room. Okay. Subtract 5, subtract 5. Then we get 18 equals 4x. And now we just divide out. 18 divided by 4 is 4.5x. Beautiful. We did it. We found x, so that was part 2. Step 1, part 2, whatever. Now the next part we have to do is find the length of each segment. So I'm going to shimmy this back up a little bit here so I can see. Well, we already know what SR is. So SR equals 30. That was a gimme. That was a freebie. Okay, now let's look at RT. So RT we have to plug in, right? So we know that it's this, but now we can plug in for x. So let's plug in 4.5 in for x. So if we crunch that out here, 3 times 4.5 is 13.5 minus 7 equals 6.5. So that's RT. And then if we want to find ST, the whole thing, we know that it's 7x plus 5. Plug in our 4.5 for x. And now we just crunch it out. 7 times 4.5 gives us 31.5 plus 5. Oh, I'm in the way. There we go. So then we get a total of 36.5 for ST. And now it's kind of a nice way to check, you guys. So look, a way you can always see if you're doing something right here is look. This is the whole thing, right? ST is the whole length of that segment. Let's see if our two parts add up to 36.5. So if this guy here is 30, and we found RT to be 6.5, well, 30 plus 6.5 gives me 36.5. Does that match this guy here? It sure does. We did it. Good work. That's amazing. All right, last slide for today. We talk about congruent segments. So if you don't know, congruent means the exact same. They're equal, okay? Like if you're an identical twin, you're congruent to your twin, right? Everything about you is the same. So congruent segments are segments that have the same length. They're the exact same size as the other guy. If you were just given a picture like this without like any words, these little tick marks here, these slash marks, those guys right there tell you they are congruent. So if I didn't know that that said 1.7 and 1.7, but I just had those tick marks there, I would know that AB and CD are congruent, that they're both the same size. I would know that because of those slash marks. In problems, this is the shorthand way to write it. So that's our congruent symbol. So like in this example here, I could say AB is congruent to CD. So it's an equal sign with that little squiggle on top. This means those two segments are congruent. We'll touch more on this when we review in class, but just know that the slash marks on a picture tell you that segments are congruent. Thank you for bearing with me on this video lesson adventure. I hope these are going okay, and I will see you next time in class. Have a great rest of your day.